And so although this cannot be controlled by any individual, it is a fact that now that supreme power wants to bring this into being, is bringing it, doesn't have to want it. It is a wave of change that's happening in the world that is moving people to change their lives in ways in which they might not have been able to even imagine in the past. And their eyes open to the acceleration of change in the world that is shifting everyone's sense of reality into one of shock and awe of the groundlessness that we are now enduring, and that we can no longer deny, because everything we took for granted and depended on as being reality that will be here tomorrow and the next day no longer can be taken for granted. And so as more and more of these aspects of the phenomenal reality that we thought were certainties, a sure bet, fall away, and we lose that which we were attached to, that which we projected we could be sure of and that we cannot, there also comes a compensating power of solitude and independence that enables us to let go of that certainty on the phenomenal plane, because we now will have greater certainty that we are noumenal beings who are dreaming the phenomenal plane, and therefore not at risk because the dream is now producing avalanches and floods and millions of horsemen of the apocalypse. And none of these shifts of the apparent world have any effect except an enjoyment of the beauty that one recognizes pertains to death as well as to birth. And one recognizes that death and birth are a couple who come together, and that when a civilization or a world is about to die, then a new world comes into being to replace the old. And the two processes happen simultaneously. The terminally ill old civilization dies slowly and gradually in fits and starts, and with denial and pretense that everything is okay and all we need is a little more quantitative easing and we'll be fine, or we'll do this geoengineering and we'll deal with climate change, or we'll deal with all of these things with our technological prowess. And then, of course, the impossibility of that and the realization of the lack of intelligence of those political elites that would have to create all of these changes, who have no will or imagination or vision to do it. And the recognition that would otherwise produce dismay and despair now become realizations that the death will happen more quickly and the suffering beings will be put out of their misery, but a new world will come to take the place of the old, and those same beings who seem to be suffering will be able to also recognize the blissful eternal beauty of existence as manifestations of divine perfection. And so the shifting, the continental collapse into the ocean of certain land masses and population masses and masses of energy and belief will disappear, and others will emerge from the depths. And all of these changes that are producing a birth of a new world that is ever more beautiful than the one that is dying and needs to die for its own sake and the sake of all who are part of it, is not a horror, is not something to feel despair or sadness or terror about, but is a natural process, just as every death and every birth is. But it's also a supernatural process, because it is being guided by that cosmic intelligence of which we are parts, of which we are manifestations. And as we are awakened to that, we become very powerful and effective catalysts to shift all of those beings who are identified with what is dying to become re-identified with what is being born, and to take away their pain and terror and dread and turn it into joy and love and bliss, because this is a time to celebrate, not to mourn. And it's in that celebration of the shift from one age to another, from one cycle of time to another, from one type of reality to a higher and more beautiful kind of reality that we are participating in and co-creating and being created by at the same time. And it's that immense, awesome, unimaginably incredible transformation that is being accomplished through an intelligence that we can't even understand, that most of us don't even realize exists, and that is the puppeteer that is moving us through life, is bringing us to the awakening to the fact that the puppet is not who we are, but that all along that self that is pulling our strings is the real I, that you are already in this moment.